Hi everyone, let's talk about Lorenzo il Magnifico. And I have played this game. I've played it once as a two-player game, once as a four-player game, and once as a fake two-player game for the video that you might have just seen. And I have to say this is a really tight game, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. In two-player especially, if you both go for something like production or both go for harvest, it can be incredibly tight because there are, you can't see because of the camera is pointing at me, but there's only one space that only one person can go on to go to those places. And it really, really does feel tight, especially before you've got your engine going and you don't have much money. If somebody goes the same way as you because you got the same cars, like in this, just happened to go for territories for some reason. I can't even remember why. But it turns out that Marty had the cards that wanted him to go into territories, so he had to take a different path. And you can't really know that in the draft what's going to happen. But I suppose you should leave your options open in the draft as well. It can lead to situations where, you see, I got my leader cards out very early, a few of mine anyway, whereas Marty's were a lot harder. I think the resources ones, they're not easy to get, but getting cards out can be a lot harder. But I suppose it's down to you. If you ended up with a lot of cards that needed you to get certain things out, then you did have the chance in the draft, hopefully, to pick your own things. So it does feel like there's more freedom in the four-player game because of the spaces that get uncovered, where not only can everybody be guaranteed that they can have production or harvest, although your dice is going to get reduced by 3 when you send it there, so you need to make sure that you can still activate things or maybe have some of the powers. I didn't take them in this game, but there are characters that help you boost the production and harvest by 3, so that really counteracts those spaces. So thinking about it, though, that could be a good way to counteract that, but they are only in a 3 or more player game. In a 2-player game, it doesn't matter. If you both really need to produce, then it's whoever was first player just gets that. And there are 2 other spaces as well. There's get 3 military and 2 money, and get 2 different cancel favors. They are available in a 4-player game, and the production spaces are available in a 3 or 4-player game. So they do open it up a little bit more, and it seems in a 4-player game anyway, you kind of sit back a little bit more and don't necessarily plan out your things because you don't know what's going to be left. But more importantly, you don't know which towers are going to be available because it's 3 money every time can be really expensive unless you've managed to work out a way of generating that money. There's only one space where you're going to get 5 money from using a worker as well. One if you're only 4 workers for the round. It seems that in a 4-player game, I was thinking this, that we would end up with, if you were in 4th place, you're just going to have to take the tower that's available. But usually, early on, it's the ventures, and the ventures aren't really going to help you that much. But getting them early means that you're getting points for really cheap, whereas late in the game, they're going to be costing 8, or you need to have, or is it 15 military and give up 8 of it? They're really expensive. If in the 4-player game that we had, I hadn't gone for military at all. So I was effectively locked out of the ventures. I didn't have that much money, and so all of the military ventures that came out, I was just frozen out of because I hadn't anticipated the cost, although I had already played it, so I should have anticipated it. So I don't think Lorenzo is going to suddenly blow people away with a load of new things. It's kind of a mixture of things you've seen in other games, including other games from a couple of the people involved. I'm not too familiar with Flaminia's designs. I did have a quick look on Board Game Geek to make sure I knew I was talking about the right people, but Simone Luciani has been involved in Zolkin, and along with Virginio Gigli, they did Grand Austria Hotel together from last year, and I loved that game. I still really, really love playing that. And I can see it is quite different, but the faith track, the Vatican report and everything is similar to the Emperor in Grand Austria Hotel, although it's a lot more harsh. I thought the punishments in Grand Austria Hotel were a little harsh, but in this they are permanent bad things. You could kind of, in Grand Austria Hotel, if it was like you lose all of your food, you could kind of think, well, I haven't got any food, or spend your food if you knew that was coming and you weren't going to get far enough on the track. In this, you're going to take quite a brutal punishment, although some don't affect you, like if you didn't collect greens throughout the entire game, scoring nothing for them at the end of the game isn't going to bother you. But you can still go up this track for points as well. It can lead to huge points, as we saw. Getting to the end of that track, getting 25 or 30 points can be a huge thing. So I see bits from Grand Austria Hotel, and you've seen Tableau Building in other games, but I think it really comes together really, really nicely in this. You do have to pick a path, and other people can very easily, inadvertently, completely knock you off course, but it's all about kind of judging what your options are right now and going for it. If you're first or second, you're going to have more choice over your destiny. So I do think this space to do turn order in a 4-player game, especially, or maybe a 3-player game, I haven't played it 3, it's going to be more and more important the more players there are, because if you end up 4th, you can end up with a tiny choice. Depending on how much money and stuff you've got, you can end up locked out of a lot of things that you wanted to do. And at the end of the game as well, you can't have more than 6 of anything. So as soon as you have done one of your things, maybe you've done all 6 of your buildings because you had a card that wanted to get 6 of the same thing out, you are stuck for that. You can't even go into that tower anymore because you can't go there unless you're taking the card. So your options are always really, really restrictive. It can feel too tight sometimes, I think, but that could be down to inexperience with the game. As I said, I've only played this twice and this is first impressions. There is so much to like in this game. I like the different workers, and everybody's got these same values. We roll these dice and you're not really tied to the destiny of the dice. You've got the servants, you've got tons of dice powers that can affect these things, the leader bonuses that affect dice. You're not really destroyed by these. I did wonder what would happen in a game where, from the start, everybody kept rolling, 1s and 2s. That might really slow the game down. I'm not sure how it would work in that case, but in my experience, it's never been like that. I think maybe 1 or 2 rounds in the whole 3 games that I've played, we've had really low rolls, and it is a bit sad to see everybody kind of struggling unless they've got servants. But I really like the different workers and things. I like the faith track, the Vatican report system. Those punishments do really scare you. And at first glance, when I was just reading the rulebook before it came out, I did think, oh, that's the thing from Grand Austria Hotel. But no, this is quite different. Especially if you want to avoid the punishments, no matter how far you've got along the track, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. So you're probably not going to get that far along it in a future round. That's a really nice touch. The military is an interesting thing because it's a resource that can be used for ventures. It's a little majority scoring at the end of the game, but most importantly, it's used for the territories, to unlock your territory spaces, which can be a huge thing to generate items in the game, but also the points bonuses. You can get 20 points if you fill up your territories. There's so many different ways of grabbing those huge bonuses. If you go all the way into territories, if you go all the way into characters to give you the powers throughout the game, you can get a lot of stuff by getting the buildings as well. Maybe if Marty had the type of buildings that I was grabbing where you could convert resources into points as well. He was ended up generating a lot of resources and a lot of money and things. He did generate some points, but maybe could have done with something to convert those resources into more points as well. As I say, there's a ton of strategy in this, even with only enough cards to do the game. There's only enough cards for every round in the game. There is still a huge amount of variety in the way these come out. If the cards that give you the powers early on to increase your dice for a certain type of card, if they come out in the first round and you grab them, it's really going to affect your strategy. Whereas if they don't come out and you're a little bit more free to choose what you want, it leads to a very different game in the end. And I can only imagine that will, improve as you get used to what these cards do, what's going to come out, and, form strategies as you get more and more experienced with the game. You'll be able to judge better whether you care about being punished by the Vatican report. At the moment, I'm always in the stage of I really don't want to be punished ever. I did try in the 4-player game. What if I get punished a bit and I don't really bother with military and things? And it was a bad idea. That's probably that particular game. The punishments really affected me, and I should have, taken it a little bit more seriously. But yeah, there's a lot of depth in the game. There's a lot of strategy. It can feel a little bit restrictive at times, especially in 2-player, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it does add to the the tense atmosphere of the game in, desperately hoping that the other person does not take your card or go in that tower, because it will block you out, because you've got this entire thing worked out and you have just enough money for it, and then the other person just inadvertently goes in that tower, and now with the extra 3 cost you need to pay, you can't go in there. There's just a lot going on, and I've really enjoyed my time with it so far, and I imagine that with experience it will only improve over time. So that was Lorenzo Il Magnifico. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you for the next game soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.